Good morning, gentlemen. We're learning, ladies and gentlemen, we're learning Chassidus about the role of the Jew in creation. If you think that your goal and role is just to stay out of everybody else's way, then you are absolutely absconding. You are jumping ship. You are abandoning your role. It would be like the CEO who is hiding from the office because he's afraid to intimidate the employees. There's a great story of a chassid who was a little abstract and aloof, and he didn't really know the ways of the world. So one day he had to go somewhere. So what does he do? He have to go somewhere. He takes a train, buys a train ticket. He actually buys a first class ticket. Okay, very nice. He gets on the train, and he notices that as everybody gets onto the train, all the people with him, they run into the train as soon as it arrives, and they hide under the seats so that the conductor won't find them. Obviously, these were people that were schnorrers, freeloading. Okay, so what does he do? Everybody else is running and hiding under the seats. He also finds himself a spot under a seat, and he hides under the seat. Soon enough, the conductor arrives, and the conductor is looking. He sees an empty cart. He doesn't see anybody in the car. So he notices a bit of tzitzis, a little tzitzis string hanging out from under a seat. The guy wasn't exactly good at hiding. So he starts pulling out the tzitzis string. And he pulls out, lo and behold, he pulls out this Jew. And he says, ticket, please. He says, sure. You want me a ticket here? So he gives him a ticket. And the guy says, well, I don't understand. You have a first-class ticket. Why are you hiding under the seat? So the Jew says, well, everybody else is doing that. Shmendrik, you have a first-class ticket. What are you doing? Doing what everybody else is doing. Just because they're schnorrers, it doesn't mean that you have to be a shmendrik as well, right? Here we are with the Jewish people, right? We've got an assignment. We've got a mission in this world. And what are we doing? We say, well, everybody else is running after a golf ball and a golf course, so I should be doing the same thing. No! Your goal is to light up and illuminate the world. The world depends on you. And this, in fact, is the opening word of the entire Torah, which is the blueprint, the manuscript, the blueprints of creation, of the existence of the universe. At the very opening word of the blueprints of the universe, it says the purpose of existence. It says Bereshis. And what does Bereshis mean? We learned Bereshis means it's two words. Every number in Hebrew every letter is a number, and therefore the letter bet is two. And the word Reshis means beginning. So bet Reshit means two for the beginning, two beginnings. There was two reasons for the beginning. What are the two reasons for the beginning? The oral Torah explicitly states for Torah and for the Jews. That's what the purpose of existence was. The purpose of creation of the world. It doesn't say for golf and for the endless buffet. It doesn't say that. It says for Torah and for the Jewish people. That's what it says. Right? That's what it says. It says the purpose of the creation is in order for the Jew to study Torah and to manifest Torah in the world. And in fact, that's why in today's parsha we just read, it's unbelievable, post-October 7th, to read a parsha that says, V'nosati sholim ba'aretz, and I will give peace in the land. V'leisaver cherev be'aretzachem, and no sword shall pass through your land. Think of those ballistic missiles. It says that you shall lay, and there shall be nobody shall make you tremble. This is a promise in the Torah, but it's conditional. It says that you got to read the opening words. The opening words are if you sweat, if you toil in the study of my Torah, which means not just drive by, casual spectator Torah study. This means immersive Torah study that challenges you out of your comfort zone. That's what it says. So instead of asking me, sir, if it's true, how about you ask yourself if you're engaging the condition, if you're qualifying for the condition. And it is a second condition that says, and you shall guard my mitzvahs, not just to guard them in your heart. Rabbi, I'm a good Jew in my heart. No, the word says, and you shall do them. So it's not enough to feel them. I feel very Jewish. Remember that politician here in South Florida that voted in favor of the Iran deal with her Jewish heart? A lot has helped us that she has a Jewish heart. Thank you very much. Such help we don't need with friends like this. Who needs enemies? It's not enough to feel Jewish. You gotta manifest it in your hands and your feet. And those are the three conditions. You shall toil in my study of Torah. Study Torah to the point that it challenges you, whether that's quantity, whether that's time, whether that's quality, wherever you're at today, tomorrow's Torah study should be deeper, broader, and more challenging. Wherever you were yesterday, today's Torah study should be deeper, broader, and more challenging. Which means if yesterday you studied Torah here, and today you're studying Torah here, then you're not challenging yourself. But if you want to challenge yourself, here's what you do. You close your eyes when you finish, and you reflect and meditate for 3 minutes on what we learned today. You get into your car, you turn the phone off, and you sit for 3 minutes and you meditate. What's going to happen if you do that? You'll be challenging yourself. That will be the fulfillment of Im b'chukei seitelecho, if you sweat in the study of my Torah. At least for those 3 minutes. And then it says the second condition is to guard my mitzvahs, and the third condition is to actually do them. You do those three, then we fulfill these mitzvahs. Then we experience the blessings of peace and prosperity. And by the way, it talks about financial prosperity, and it talks about all sorts of blessings that we possibly could need. They're all included in this opening aliyah of the Torah this week.
What was number 3?
And you shall do them. And in case you want to see it, open up a Chumash and read the first 10 verses of this week's parsha, and you'll see it for yourself. The last portion of the book of Vayikra. Now, why is it that peace in the land, that peace on earth, that prosperity depends upon Torah and mitzvahs? Because that is the purpose of creation for the Jew and for the Torah. And when you put those two together, you have an unstoppable power that no force and no power will ever be able to come in the way of. And God willing, when the leaders of Israel, the political leaders of Israel, will find the strength and the courage of their convictions. We saw Bibi Netanyahu in a famous picture yesterday or 2 days ago. He was sitting in the Knesset reading a book about the Rebbe by Rabbi Simon Jacobson. It's called Toward a Meaningful Life, translated into Hebrew. And there he was sitting in the Knesset reading the book by the Rebbe when our political leaders will be infused with Goin Yaakov, with the pride of Jacob, to be able to have the courage to stand up to the world and say, we don't need your permission to protect ourselves. We don't need you to let us. The Americans killed 1 million Japanese. Yes, Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
No, it wasn't 1 million. It was about 200,000. But there's a lot of people.
Or a lot more.
Right.
Fact check the Rabbi. Go for it. The Americans killed how many Germans?
Not enough.
Whoa. How many Germans were killed? I think it was enough. I think it was just enough. You know why I think it was just enough? It was just enough to end the war. And that's, I wouldn't say not enough, because the amount that they killed was enough in order to end the war. And that's what the goal was, in order for them to surrender. Right? Israel was killed, according to even Hamas estimates, okay, even according to the Hamas propaganda machine, barely, not even 5% of the amount of Germans that were killed by the Americans. Not even 5%, according to Hamas's inflated estimates.
And what you said, the proportionality principle is that. It's what does it take to finish.
Exactly. The goal is to end the war that we didn't start, to remove butchers who are sworn and avowed enemies of our people, who preach genocide every single day, right? And we've only killed not even 5% of the at the highest, most inflated estimate of the amount of the amount that America killed in Germany. Numbers
between 129,000 and 226,000.
That was pretty close.
Japanese.
That's what I thought.
Were killed in Nagasaki.
Right.
And Hiroshima.
Hiroshima. But then there were many others who died as a result of the
radiation.
My friend, civilian deaths from Allied bombing. Okay, estimates of the number of Japanese people killed in World War II range from 2.6 million to 3.1 million, which is about 3%.
That wasn't
I didn't say. I'm saying including Nagasaki. I'm saying including Nagasaki. No. Hang on a second. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, 2 million people is apparently the estimate over here. It's between 2.6 and 3.1. Okay. Now, don't forget, we're held reliable and responsible. The Jews are held liable and responsible for any Hamas militant, death terrorist, a bloodthirsty terrorist. That's also considered a death, by the way, right? They don't differentiate, right? They don't differentiate. So that's what I'm saying. So it looks like up to 3.1 million, 3% of the population is what the amount of Japanese innocent, peace-loving civilians were killed in World War II, right? How many Arabs have been killed in this war? What are you talking about? According to the most inflated estimate, 40,000. More likely 15 or 18,000. Baba Mises, we don't need to protect us, to defend ourselves for defending ourselves. And we have to tell the world to relax and to embrace their own genocides, and don't tell us how to do genocide, because we're protecting ourselves from a genocide, and this is in fact the opposite of a genocide. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was said that the more relevant indicator is how many civilian deaths per combatant deaths. And the number in Gaza is significantly less than it was in Afghanistan.
Right, of course,
Which
of course.
shows that.
But also,
Israeli
what's a
forces
civilian?
are
I mean, the
both sides.
civilians
Right.
are also.
What's a civilian?
participating.
Anyways,
It's
back
a
to
Hamas person who put his gun down.
back to Chassidus, folks. I'm sorry if I got a bit of a tangent over there.
No, it's a good thing.
It's a good tangent, right? Yeah, but the Hamas Ministry of Peace and Love is the Hamas Ministry of Peace and Love is telling us that only innocent people have been killed. Health Ministry. Yeah. Okay. So friends, this is a very important mission statement to understand. The very opening word of the Torah, Bereshis, Beis Reshis, two beginnings. Torah and the Jews, that's the purpose of creation. Now, when somebody comes and tells you, when somebody comes with an Amalek attitude, and Amalek, what does Amalek do? The Torah tells us Amalek, it pours cold water on your passion, pours cold water on your enthusiasm, and says, where is your God now? Where is your God now? That's what the Amalek says. The Jew really understands that he is the focal point of creation. We are the chosen people. You shall be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. For in you God is chosen from all the nations. There's nothing embarrassing to be chosen, right? And if you feel uncomfortable about being chosen, remember your spouse chose you. Okay, and if you're gonna walk around and say, I'm not so chosen, it's gonna be very offensive to your spouse when you say, I wasn't chosen by my spouse. She just couldn't get anything better.
Probably true.
That would be extremely offensive.
True.
That would be extremely offensive. You know, Bill and Hillary Clinton were walking down the street one day, and they see a garbage truck driving down Little Rock Street in Little Rock, Arkansas. So Hillary says to Bill, you see that guy driving the garbage truck? He says, yeah. She says, I dated him in college. So Bill says, Hillary, aren't you happy that you didn't marry him? If you'd be married to him, you'd be the wife of a garbage collector. So Hillary says, no, you don't understand. If I married him, he'd be president of the United States.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty good.
We are the chosen people, my friend. Don't insult the one who chose us by rejecting the chosenness. Act chosen, for heaven's sake. That's what the world is waiting for us to do. The world is waiting for us to lead and to stand up and say, yes, we know who we are, and we're not afraid to admit it. Now, we ended last time with the story of the Alter Rebbe. So at the bottom of page 329. I'm just going to say it early. The story was about the Alter Rebbe's chassid, very wealthy man who was very honorable and charitable and trustworthy. And people invested their savings with him at a low interest. Of course, that was done through heter iska, which is the permissible mechanism that allows a Jew to lend money to another Jew with interest, where it's not really a loan, it's actually a partnership. It's called heter iska. And it's critical to do that, by the way. Critical. If you lend money to a fellow Jew, do not charge interest without a heter iska agreement. It's a simple document that you have to sign, because if you don't have the heter iska, you are putting in a bomb in your bank account. You're literally expelling the presence of God from your bank account by charging interest to a fellow Jew. I beg you, please, if you're charging interest to a fellow Jew, do it with a heter iska agreement. Just take upon yourself this resolution. This is how I'm going to do it, because if you don't, you're literally expelling God from your bank account. It's a very bad idea. Okay, so what happened was the guy's financial situation took a downturn, and he lost all of his money and the money that was entrusted to him. When the chassid appeared before the Alter Rebbe, he cried out long and bitter, saying how much he needed the money to pay his debts, to marry off his children, and to sustain his other children, and to, of course, give back the money to the people that he owed. Top of 330, the Alter Rebbe thought for a while, and then he said to the chassid, all you tell me is what you need. But what you are needed for, i.e., what your divine mission is, you neglect to mention. What is the Alter Rebbe telling this chassid? He's saying to him like this. He's saying,
You lost your way.
the Alter Rebbe is saying, that he's talking to me or him.
No. I'm
Oh, he's saying you lost
that's
your
what he's
exactly. You
saying
lost
to
your way.
him.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the fly. He says to him, "You lost your way." He's saying, who's the source of the money? Follow the money. Follow the money. Right? You've heard about the latest terrorist organization in America. You know, it's like all this fun. We're like discovering the latest terrorist.
Yeah.
The latest terrorist organization discovered by a congresswoman from I don't know where is the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. I mean, they're coming out of nowhere, these guys. Apparently, the EPA gave a grant of $50 million to an organization called Climate Justice something.
Of Palestine.
Climate Justice Junction or Exchange or something. And what it is, it's nothing to do with the climate. It's all got to do with Free Palestine. $50 million. You know how many tents you could buy with $50 million? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's the latest anti-Semite of the week. But it's the EPA with limitless funding and zero oversight.
Anti-Semite of the week.
Yeah, there are such things, by the way. You can Google it. All right. So yeah, if you ever feeling depressed, you're gonna get a little more depressed, you go to that website. So what happens here is the Alter Rebbe says to the Chassid, you're worrying about what other people what you need from God. But why don't you worry about what God needs from you? If you're biting the hand that feeds you, maybe you're doing something wrong, and that's the reason. Maybe instead of like Marty said, like, you know, it says blessings of the Torah, it's gonna be peace in the land. Well, where is the peace of the land? So I say to you, well, how about you worry about whether you're fulfilling your part of the deal, and then you can worry about where's the peace, right? So same thing with the Alter Rebbe saying to him, if you're not worrying and even aware of what your role is, for what your responsibility is to God, then why are you so concerned about God's responsibilities to you? Deal with the cause, and the effects will take care of themselves. Yes.
John Kennedy was a Chassid.
What did he say? Oh, ask not what Hashem can do for you. Ask what you can do for Hashem. That's right. Exactly. This is JFK. His son's running now, right?
It's not his
Nephew?
It's not his dad.
It's
His
his
nephew.
nephew or great nephew or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So it turns out like this, friends. What the Alter Rebbe is saying, is a beautiful story. It's a very beautiful story. The Alter Rebbe is saying, look, your financial prosperity. The Alter Rebbe was saying to him, your financial prosperity is a product of your relationship with Hashem. It's a result of your scorecard with God. What is your grade? You know, my kids are all going through exams, end of year right now, right? What is your grade, Andy? Not to put you on the spot, but if you could please announce. I'm sorry. What is your grade to God? Imagine God had to give you a grade today of all of your life so far.
My report card.
Well, you should know what it is. Ayeka. Where are you holding? Right? Where are you? Where are you, Dovid? Right? Where are you? What's your scorecard? Are you like a B minus or maybe like an F plus? Like where are you holding?
About a C.
Where are you, Rabbi?
That's pretty good.
Where am I? I'll tell you where I am.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit better than yesterday,
There you go.
and hopefully not as good as tomorrow.
That's a great rabbinic answer. I like that.
By the way, I want to tell you something. You know, I want to tell you something. A chassid does a stock taking every night. A chassid does a stock taking every night. What does he do? He says Kriya Shema Shalamita. You know, Kriya Shema Shalamita means the Shema before you go to bed at night. This is very, very interesting, very important. And you know, Velva's leaving us soon, so I want you to leave us with this thought here. I want you to remember this. Take it with you. That you know how many times you're supposed to. Oh, we got peace from the Netherlands. Thank you. Yetze de Jager. Yetze de Jager from the land of Geert Wilders, a man who has the courage to stand up to the total idiots from around the world. Thank you, Yetze, for standing with Israel. Today on our YouTube feed, by the way, we got greetings and love for the IDF from Indonesia. Can you imagine? The largest Muslim country. No, it's not Malaysia. No, Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world. There are actually good people. The story goes like this. That a chassid, you're supposed to say Shema multiple times a day. You know how many times? Twice a day. That's it. When you go to sleep and when you wake up. Problem is, what time do you wake up? What time do you go to sleep? The answer is it's got to be waking up in the first 3 hours of the day, and it's got to be going to sleep after nightfall. Problem is, if you live in a place like Northern England when it gets dark like 11:45 p.m., it's a problem, right? So what do? You're supposed to, even if you wake up a little late, or if you dive, the Torah channel from Tzfas, from north of Israel. Wow, you guys are amazing. You're in the range of Hezbollah. Remember, please, from Tzfas, the Torah channel. Today's Chumash. V'nosati sholim baretz. I hope that you, like we, are pushing yourself to study more Torah in b'chokaisei telechu, so that we too will all experience a collective v'nosati sholim baretz. And no sword shall pass through the land, but as in ballistic missiles, drones, Iraqi, whatever, Houthi, Yemeni, whatever. We're praying for you guys. Anyways, back to the story here, Chizballah. Yeah. May their names all be blotted out and erased, and may they disappear with the coming of Mashiach today. So the story goes: you say Shema every morning. What's every morning? In the first 3 hours of the day. So you open up your Torah app and you look for the latest time for Shema, and you find out what time it is. No, not 9 o'clock, depending on daylight saving. Sorry, and DST times and all that kind of stuff. Today's latest Shema is 9:50 a.m. Actually, 9:50. But the story goes, guys. By the way, different places you're in the world, it's not so simple. Sometimes it's like 8:15. Anyways, you want to wake up. You want to say Shema in the morning, the first thing as soon as you wake up, because you want to make sure. Because sometimes the minyan is later. The minyan is later, right? So you say Shema in the morning, but you also want to say Shema at night. What happens if you're davening Ma'ariv, and the Ma'ariv in your shul is a little earlier, like in our shul? It gets dark at like 8:40. So we daven Ma'ariv here at 7:15. So you're not saying Shema. It's still allowed to daven Ma'ariv that early, but you haven't said Shema. So what do? You say Shema before you go to bed. Always, you're supposed to say Shema before you go to bed. It's printed in the Siddur behind me. After the evening service is the prayer of Shema before retiring at night. At that Shema, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do a stock taking. It's private. You don't do it with a minyan. You do it by yourself, and you're supposed to forgive everybody who insulted your feelings today, my whole life, and in a previous lifetime.
I'd never go to sleep.
How's that for a meditation before you go to bed, right? So here goes. You're supposed to forgive everybody. You're not supposed to take any grudges to bed or to the grave. Remember, bed is sleep is 1/60th of death, and this is a miniature confession, vidui, before death. You do it before you go to sleep at night. And what you're supposed to think about is how was my day? How did I do today? Ayako, that's what you're supposed to think about. And there was a chassid who would every night he would say the Shema before he went to bed, and he would say Azay, these words. He would say, Morgen wird sein Gor anders. Tomorrow will be Gor anders. Tomorrow is going to be totally different. So, friends, this is my question to you. You want to experience prosperity. Don't focus on the effect. Focus on the cause. Today's parsha talks about prosperity. You'll have so much money that before you have time to spend what you have, you already have the infusion of the next. That's the promise. You'll eat old produce because you have so much left over. You just didn't run out yet. And v'yashan, but you have so much coming in, you have to make space for the new stuff, for the new money, with the old money. Do you know what I mean? This is what the problems you're going to have to deal with when you're pushing yourself to study Torah more than you're comfortable with, and when you're gone in the mitzvahs to do them, those 3 conditions. Now, with this being said, I want you to think about what your grade is. And if your grade is a C-, okay, or C+, good. How about tomorrow we shoot for a B+, B-, okay? You see what I'm saying? This is where I'm going. Tomorrow should be a little bit better. Today should be better than yesterday. Now, when it comes to the survival of the Jewish people, when it comes to anti-Semitism, stop focusing on the problem. Stop focusing on who the latest anti-Semite is. Newsflash, there are more anti-Semites than you'll ever be able to count. There's more of them than us. We're outnumbered by the anti-Semites. However, we will endure, we will persevere. All that we need to do in order to unleash the blessing of God Almighty is to do our part, which is to exercise our chosenness, our bereshis, our 2 reasons for which the world was created. When we double down and we reveal the reason of why we are in this world in order to study Torah, it's then that God unleashes those blessings. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is telling this chassid. Stop focusing on what God needs to do for you. Think about what you need to do for God, and everything will work itself out. And thus, this is what is meant by the teaching that the Jewish people have a divine mission to refine the world through Torah and mitzvahs. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further into the bottom part of the page just to open it up the next chapter, because that was a bit of a review. And the next chapter is bottom of page 330. What we're going to say is like this. What he's going to say right now is extending on this same exact theme, and he's going to go do it back in the verse, back inside of the original verse. The verse that the mimer is based on is from the book of Psalms, from Tehillim chapter 42. Remember, was recited the psalm by the sons of Korach, the evil sons of Korach who did teshuvah. And they said these words, my tears have been my food day and night, for they, my enemies, say to me all day, where is your God? That verse explains Alter Rebbe as follows. Explains the Frierdiker Rebbe as follows. He says like this. What are you crying about? In this verse, what are you crying about? It's a very novel interpretation of the Chassidus. My tears have been for what? My tears have been my food day and night. So the way that the Vedic Rebbe is interpreting this verse is like this. I've been crying because of my lack of financial success. And when my enemies say to me, my spirituality, when my enemies address my spirituality, where's your God? And then there's no tears. In other words, I'm fully focused on what? On what God needs to do for me. And I'm entirely ignoring what I need to do for God. And that is the novel interpretation of Chassidus, of this beautiful piece of Tehillim. And I want you to take this with you. Chapter 42 in Tehillim, I hope it will never be the same for you again. And I'd like to encourage you to take your Tehillim and make the Tehillim yours. Take a Tehillim, buy a book of Tehillim, right? Costs about probably less than $18 to buy a book. And make that, Corey is waving. She gives a class in Tehillim.
What number?
42 verse number 4.
42.
Corey gives a class in Tehillim here at the shul. Check out the weekly schedule of the shul on Friday emails to see when exactly Corey's giving that email. Give that class. But take a Tehillim.
Get the fancy commentary.
Oh, get the fancy one of the commentary. There's different Tehillims, there's different commentaries, there's beautiful versions of Tehillim. But if you take a Tehillim, chapter 42, verse number 4, I'd like you to take a pencil, right? And you see, this is what I do. I write in my book. Some people have asked me, is it respectful to write in your books? Is it respectful to write in your books? It's a Torah book. And I say, listen, when you leave this earth at 120 years old, God willing, or whatever the right time comes, right? When you leave this earth, you're going to leave your kids a library of books. Like, they're going to see this library of books as pristine and untouched. You know what they're going to do? They're going to donate it to some yeshiva somewhere, and they'll be done with it. But if they see that you toiled, and you underlined, then you highlighted, and you wrote notes, that's going to become a priceless family heirloom. They're going to learn that with their children and say, let's try to study the Torah the way Daddy understood the Torah. Isn't that beautiful? Write all over your books. Don't write in anybody else's books. Don't write in the shul's books. Write in your own books. Right? Write in your own books. Absolutely. So I want you to take Psalms 42, verse number 4, and write like this. They're crying for the wrong reasons. They're crying because of their financial insecurity. And when it comes to their spiritual inadequacy, there's no tears. They're like, they don't know what hit them. That's when they're like a deer in the headlights, where they're totally paralyzed. And when you write that down, invoke the story of the Alter Rebbe so you can meditate on it. You can meditate on it. I believe we say this psalm every month on the 9th day of the month. 8th or 9th. What? Wrong guy. Talking about the fly bit you.
He said Abraham.
Oh, he said Abraham. I thought he said something else. I wasn't sure.
No.
Okay. All right. So what am I saying, guys? Is
42.
write that down. 42. We said on the 8th or 9th day of the month, and you should say it regularly. You know what I mean? If you're worried about your financials, then read this verse. Thank you, Andy. Then read this verse, and it will enlighten you. Let's just read this inside the text, okay? Most commentators interpret the verse, my tears have been my food day and night, for they, my enemies, say to me all day, where is your God? As referring to the lowly spiritual state of Jewry during exile. The prophets here indicate what is cried about by the Jewish people and what is not cried about. The prophets lament the fact that the Jewish people have fallen so low that they cry about those things which should not be cried about, while those matters which should be cried about are not cried about. All this stems from the harmful influence of the heretics who make Jews frigid to Torah mitzvahs. What that means is a Jew naturally is a believer. Ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, with the believers, the sons of believers. That's what we are. It's only because we're inundated by negative influence, by propaganda of the spiritually insecure around us, and we listen to that noise, that we're intimidated into submission. Chassidim drink l'chaim. Why do Chassidim drink l'chaim, Velvel? You know why we have so much to drink, Velvel? Any idea? That's not why. We don't want to get drunk. No. The reason I want you to take this meditation with you, Velva, I'm going to miss you when you go up north, but I want you to know this. The reason why Chassidim say l'chaim, Velva, is, you know why? Is because when you put l'chaim, when you put vodka in the freezer, what happens, Shapsi? What happens when you put vodka in the freezer?
It's cold.
Gets cold and it gets ice in
It only gets ice in it if you're drinking the cheap stuff. Only if you're drinking the cheap stuff. No. Only if you mixed it with water, it gets ice in it. But real alcohol doesn't get ice in it. because the freezing point of alcohol is way above the freezing point of water, and therefore is way lower. And that's why alcohol doesn't freeze. Alcohol is not intimidated by its surroundings. You put a Chabadnik in Antarctica, and Antarctica is going to turn into a bastion of Jewish life.
Global warming.
Wherever he is, a chassid machta sviva. Wherever he is, a chassid illuminates his surroundings, and he's never intimidated by his surroundings. You hear the story of the Chabad rabbi who was he wasn't exactly the way he should have been, and he gets up to heaven, and they send him down to the basement. They send him down to purgatory, to Gehenna. So the Satan gives up a call to the front desk, and he says, "Can you get this guy out of here? He's running a fundraiser to install air conditioning in the whole." He's like a fundraiser, right? Okay, so that's what a chassid is. A chassid is like alcohol, which is unintimidated by surroundings. Friends, if you have that annoying brother-in-law, if your spouse is making it difficult for you, if your children make fun of you, if your parent says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're so primitive," don't be intimidated. Don't be afraid. This is part of the challenge of life. When the Alter Rebbe, was it the Alter Rebbe? Somebody in the early days of Chassidus went off to study Chassidus, and he came back after like 6 months. And his father-in-law, I think it was the Alter Rebbe, his own father-in-law said to him, "No, so what did you learn from the Maggid, from the Chassidic movement?" He said, I learned that there's a God." You know that there's a God? That's ridiculous. He calls in the cleaning lady, and he says, "Maria, is there a God?" She says, "Yeah." He said, "Maria knows that there's a God. You have to go to Mezrich to learn that there's a God." He says, "Maria believes that there's a God. I know." That's a big deal. I actually saw an interview by Carl Jung yesterday. Carl Jung, yeah, I saw him for the first time. Interesting. So he was being interviewed, and they said to him, "In your early days, you believed in God." He says, yeah, I believe in God. So then they say, "Well, what about now that you've discovered so much about the human psyche and you're such a scientist? What about now?" He says, "Now I don't believe in God. Now I know there's a God." That's what he says. Now I know there's a God. In fact, I can't believe I didn't post that because it's a nice video. Anyway, so bottom line is,
Where did you see the interview?
I don't know. I got to find it now. I can't remember.
Why do you have time to look at interviews and all that again?
It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe it was in my dream. I can't remember. All right. So anyways, bottom line is, friends, let's wrap it all up by saying the following. Let's close it up with the following words. The following words. What are the following words? What was I just saying? I was saying something about believing there's a God. Knowing there's a God. How? What's that connected here? Oh, by not being intimidated by your surroundings. That's what it is. Friends, maybe there's one more story I want to share with you. One more story. And the story is about Reb. He was the chief rabbi of Prussia. His name was Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Good story. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz was the chief rabbi of Prussia. When he was a little boy, he was precocious at 4 years old. Precocious kid. So the king of Prussia, Kaiser Wilhelm, decided to test out this little boy. He heard that he's precocious. See, what does he do? He tells them, sends a message. And he says, "I want you to find your way to the palace. I want you to find your way to the palace by yourself. Nobody's allowed to guide you. And if you come to the palace, I'll give you a big reward." Let's put him out of the town, and let's see if a 4-year-old boy can find this way. This is a setup. It was an ambush. Okay. So the boy, fine. He finds his way. He arrives at the palace. There's a whole crowd of royalty dignitaries waiting for him. Big round of applause. The king's very impressed. He says to him, "Tell me, little boy, how'd you find your way to the palace?" He says, "Well, I figured it out. And when I didn't know, I would ask someone. How do you know the person was telling you the truth?" I said, "Well, if it didn't seem right, then I would ask a second person. And if the second person said the same thing, then I know that's the right way. What happens if the second person told you a different thing than the first person?" She says, "In that case, I'd ask a third person. And the third person would give me a majority rule. I'd go with the majority rule. So that way I'd know which way to go." And this is what a 4-year-old is saying. It's very impressive. This is the moment that the king was waiting for. He says, "Aha, young Jew, you yourself have just told me that it's all about the majority rule. The majority of people in our nation are Christians. Why then do you have the audacity to remain a Jew?" So says the little boy, "Your Majesty, the only time I ever asked for directions is when I didn't know the way. Is when I was unsure. But whenever I was sure of the way, No matter if 50 people would have told me to go a different way, I would not listen to them. And that's going to be our attitude. When we are clear about our way, when we know exactly which direction we need to go, when our faith is rock solid, then no power or force is able to pull us away. And that's got to be the way that we approach our day, the way we approach our Yiddishkeit, not intimidated by the scoffers, not intimidated by the questions. Okay, you got a question. Nobody died from a question. Where was God in the Holocaust? Okay, I got the same question. We'll wait for an answer together. It's okay. But when it happens, we'll explore it. But until then, we don't have to put our lives on hold. And with that, we finish today with hopefully much more clarity on the role of the Jew and the critical benefit of when we do our part, when we do what God needs from us. That's when God gives us what we need from Him. If God is all that there is, then what is God's concealment? God is not only His revelation. God is also His concealment, my friends. That is the essence, Gib, of the book of Yodaita Moskova, which is the book that I wrote. It's right here on the table. It's called "If God is Good, Why Can Life Be So Bad?" You can buy it on Amazon, Gib. And if God is good, you just Google my name in Amazon, Vigler. On Amazon, you get the book over there. But that answers your question that God is not only the revelation, God is also the concealment. He's not only the light, He's also the dark. God is not only the good, God is also the bad. And therefore, we have nothing to be afraid of. And I call it a day. Thank you so much.
So did you hear about the farmer who